The upgrade to Adagio Inventory 9.3a has an enormous number of changes to improve transaction entry. Previously, transaction entry was generally restricted to one user at a time. Now, all transactions in inventory can be entered by multiple users concurrently. Each entry will have a unique reference value, and users will be prevented from processing a transaction that is in use by another user. If you have many people entering transactions and different security access is required, it is now possible to define security groups to allow or deny access to the Add, Edit, Delete, and Post buttons for each transaction type. Therefore, control over user tasks is easier to manage. All transaction types now allow saving entries without having to immediately post them. This allows greater audit control, ease of use, and additional features. In addition to transaction entry processes, there are also respective inquiry methods for each type, available from the Inquiries menu. Information can be viewed prior to posting and without editing possible. A listing report is available for each transaction type, which can be printed either directly from the transaction window for a range of selected records, or from the Transactions menu and the Type Flyout menu, or from the Reports menu and the desired type. The report lists the selected group of transactions, sorted either by reference or date, with ledger activity included if selected. If a similar entry will be created to one that already exists and has not been posted, you can copy the entry to create it. Because transactions don't have to be posted right away, this list can start to grow big. It is possible to find a transaction based on the reference value, including a smart finder to search based on other criteria. And filters can be created for each transaction type to display only those transactions you need to see, or apply color coding to the records in the grid. Each transaction stores the date, time, and user that created the entry, and also for the last edit of the entry to track activity. Because receipts can be entered without posting, a new entered status is available to indicate this, different than posted receipts that continue to have an active status, and completed receipts that can no longer be adjusted. When entering a transaction, the information is now displayed differently, with a header area at the top for information about the entry, and a grid that stores detailed information about each item as a collection within the entry. The 24-character reference can be set to auto-generate a value based on company profile options for each transaction type, including an incrementing sequence number and additional information such as user ID or date that can be inserted with format codes. This can save time in deciding what a reference should be and can be edited for new transactions. If Adagio Doc Store is integrated, PDFs can be attached to any transaction entry and can be viewed here or from the transaction list grid. If you wish to keep track of the purpose for a transaction, which may be most interesting for adjustments and stock transfers, you may now create a list of reason codes that you can select from, saving time in entering the same comment text over again for many transactions. This list is common to every transaction type, and you may edit the reason description if required, or enter information here without selecting a reason code. If additional information is needed for the transaction entry, optional fields may be defined for use in all transaction types. These values will not be linked to optional field values stored on items, but rather handled independently. When adding an item detail to a transaction and choosing the item number to use, there are a few new changes. Not only is the item description editable to save in a transaction, it can be added to the detail grid as a column for display. All transactions support a full item inquiry from this screen, with or without the cost information, depending on security settings, rather than a limited set of item information. If you are in an industry where it is important that goods sold has a unit price that is rounded to required precision, especially when an alternate unit of measure has been selected, a new company profile option for round to nearest value has been added, so that rounding could be calculated either up or down to the nearest place. Shipments in Inventory supports this feature, as do compatible versions of Adagio Order Entry and Invoices. Also, alternate price list items have the round to nearest setting for a particular item and price list. If you have items with the user-specified costing method, where the unit cost is editable, a new company profile option to display unit cost to 4 decimals is available to allow entering a value with up to 4 decimal precision. Note that this does not affect items with other costing methods, nor does it allow you to save unit costs on items with more than 2 decimal precision at this time. When you save a new detail on a transaction, you may want to add another item immediately, which is now easier with the user preference for Auto Add Detail. And depending on the type of transaction, you can see total amounts for each entry at the bottom of the screen, or as columns on the grid. For shipments, you can see the total price and cost. For other transactions, you can see the total cost and quantity, where the quantity does not account for unit of measure calculations, but simply sums the values for the entry. Entering adjustments has the location code on the header, so that all adjustments for this entry belong to this location. And on adjustment details, the reason code and description is found, so that each adjustment can have a different comment. Entering stock transfers has both the source and target location codes on the header, so that all transfers for this entry belong to these locations. And on transfer details, the reason code and description is found so that each transfer can have a different comment. Entering item assemblies has a default location code on the header, so that all assemblies for this entry can use this default. And on assembly details, the reason code and description is found so that each assembly can have a different comment, and values for the component, additional, and prorated costs are displayed at the bottom. When you are ready to post transactions, it is possible to multi-select transactions from the grid, even if they are not consecutive. You'll be prevented from posting a transaction that is edited by another user. When posting is complete, the transaction audit list can be printed, with the ability to see results for just the most recent posting sequence, or any other posting sequence range. All postings done prior to conversion will be in Sequence 1. You will no longer be given the choice to purge the audit list after posting, as the option in the company profile has been removed. Now, clearing the audit lists will follow other Adagio programs and only occur during year-end processing. And when performing day-end processing to create an invoice batch in Adagio Payables, any PDF document links attached to the receipts will be included on the invoices. Enter transactions more easily, with better reporting before posting, with updates in version 9.3a. Find out more about Adagio from the product page on our website, Watch another training video on this Adagio program from the playlist, or subscribe to the Adagio YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.